All right, Javier Mendez, of all people, welcome to be my first guest on the new MMA headline segment of the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast. Are you surprised to be my first guest?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm sure you had many people waiting to get on. So
many
I'm
turned
sure
me down.
You picked me.
So many.
That's pretty
were
honored.
The only one left.
Hundreds and hundreds of guests.
Yeah, I started with like 100 or 110, and like, yep, here we are. All right.
I was number 109.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Cool.
So this is going to be the new segment where I bring guests on, and you are my most common guest and my best friend, and what a perfect person to bring on for the first headline show. Your expertise in the sport, one of the greatest coaches. I don't have to tell everybody that, but I'm going to bring guests on, and instead of just doing podcasts about them and their lives and what's going on with them, which we can obviously talk about a little bit if you want, it's going to be talking about headlines, so we can have great conversation about the news of the sport that we both love and cherish and have devoted our lives to. So I'll get started. First headline is, this has something to do with you a little bit, but Michael Chandler believes, that he came out recently on MMA Fighting and said that he believes he can convince Khabib to come out of retirement, says he beat everybody but himself and Oliveira. Now, that's interesting. I mean, I'm going to get your opinion on that, but I also want to follow that up real fast before you give your opinion and say that Khabib's last Instagram post was a picture of himself with Lorenzo Fertitta. This was less than 24 hours ago, and the caption read, "Good to see you, Lorenzo. Dana, send me location," and it had a location ping, which usually means get me a fight, especially directed to Dana. And then this coming off, so I guess my question is, and what we can talk about is, do you think Chandler can get him to come out of retirement? Is that a fight worth him coming out, if he can even come out? Because as you know, I think you're pretty steadfast that he's not. And then what does this Instagram post mean, do you think?
Okay, well, I can tell you this. Last week, I got the knocking on the door. Bang, 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 bang. And I'm like, man, I'm waking up. I needed 1 hour more sleep. I was pissed because they were knocking very hard. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what the hell? I go out there and I answer the door. It's USADA.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going,
you're getting tested now.
I said, who are you here for? They go, Khabib. I go, I was mad, bro. I said, he's not here. They go, I know. We tried knocking on the front of the big house, but no one answered. The guy goes, will you help me? I said, no. I was so mad. I said no because I had no sleep. I have insomnia. I wasn't sleeping, so I said no. And he takes off. He didn't even go to the house. He takes off. I tell Ali, the manager, hey, USADA came looking for Khabib, and all of a sudden Ali goes, oh, calls USADA. Well, he's right here. Come over here to the Apex. We're right here doing the thing. So I guess the guy shows up, and Khabib does the test. And I went and I apologized to the guy because I was being a dick. I said, man, I'm really sorry. It's just you woke me up. And he goes, man, don't worry about it. I get it all the time. So, fact, he did do USADA. Okay,
yeah,
still in the testing pool. So that's a fact. Okay,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Now, can Michael Chandler get Khabib to come out of retirement? No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think
can
so.
Oliveira's? No. Can someone like Conor McGregor, if he has a great performance? Possible. For me, it's always been GSP. If there is any chance at all, it's GSP. And the only way it will happen, because you got to understand, people that don't know Khabib, they should know Khabib. He would have to get mother's permission before any of that could ever happen. So let's say they do get GSP and he did want to fight. He won't fight until mom gives him the okay, because he made a promise to his mother, not his coach, not anybody else. And I have never spoken to him about, are you really retired? That's none of my business. If he says, hey, coach, let's go. All right, let's go. That's it. I'm not in that category where, hey, you should fight one more time or you shouldn't fight one more time. He's never asked me. And as long as he doesn't ask me, I don't have an opinion on it.
And the cool thing is he's the type of guy that, like, he doesn't have to ask it as far as looking for an opinion. We all know he can fight again. We all know he can beat probably everyone, no matter who they are, and possibly even GSP at a different catch weight or something. Like, there's no doubt of, like, can you fight again? So it's just literally, in my opinion, it's just a matter of, does he want to fight again or not? And if he does, you're down, let's help him, and we're down to support him. And if not, so be it. It's not a normal situation where a fighter's kind of questioning, can I fight again? You know, can I beat these guys? So that's the big difference with this.
Yeah, well, keep in mind one thing. He laces up the gloves a lot. He's laced up the glove and beats up on his cousins, getting them ready for fights. And he's going to probably beat up on Manap this Friday to get him ready for his last training. He asked if he could spar him. I said, yep. So he's probably going to beat up Abu Bakr. But hey, he's always in shape. The guy's always in shape. So, and I'm not saying he wants to fight. I'm just saying the facts. He's always in shape, and he's not out of the USADA testing pool. And who knows why? I haven't asked him why. So we'll just leave it at that.
Maybe he just likes peeing in a cup. So we won't jump to conclusions, but we will say it is very interesting. It is very interesting.
Yes.
Him, and you know what? It's not like it's like you're giving anything away, because he posted a picture very much insinuating in every form of context that we are used to from Khabib that he's looking for a fight, possibly, to post a picture with Lorenzo and tell Dana to send him location, whether he's joking or not. So there's obviously something going on, and who knows if it's going to work out. But yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. Just to get over the headline, I agree with you. I don't think Chandler is what it takes. I think Chandler had a great first fight. He's a great fighter. I think he was wanting the fight, of course. I mean, who doesn't want to fight Khabib? You know, I think he's definitely wanting the fight, but I don't think he's something that's going to get Khabib excited right now. I mean, maybe if he wins some more fights, we're talking way in the future. But I agree with you 100%. I think, in all honesty, no matter where Conor is right now and what the circumstance, that is a huge fight, no matter what happens. Kind of like these other fights with YouTube and stuff like that, the YouTube guys and the showmen and boxing and all that. It's a big fight, and it's entertainment at the end of the day. And then the GSP fight would just be crazy. And this fast forwards me to a headline, another one I was going to get into later, but I might as well get into it right now. One of the other headlines is GSP offered advice to Conor McGregor after Conor McGregor's loss, and his advice basically was, if he wants to be on the road back to success, he needs to get out of his comfort zone. And I think that was a very, very good quote. And the reason I say that, because I think a lot of people do get comfortable, and I think what makes you a champion, you know, like Conor McGregor and GSP, is when you come up and you don't have anything. And like GSP said, you know, he was fighting to stay alive all of his first fights, you know, because he knew if he lost, he might lose his career, he might lose everything, go back to a normal job. Conor McGregor is a prime example of that. This guy had nothing. This guy was like bare bone broke, you know, and he was fighting to survive. So when you have that going for you, you fight a lot better. And I think GSP is basically saying, you got to put yourself back in your, you know, out of your comfort zone and back in your desperation mode. And everyone I've talked to that's known GSP and trained with him, including David Loazo, who was in my very last podcast, all agreed and all told me that he is very meticulous when he fights. GSP, he's the kind of guy that lays his food out. He plans all of it, like every minute of his training session. He lays his clothes out, you know, the night before to get it ready for the next morning. And like, he's very, very meticulous. So I can see GSP being a guy that would take the amenities out of his life during his fight camp, not walk around in nice clothes and drive Bentleys and be on yachts and things like that, but literally put himself back into a position where he's uncomfortable to be able to get through fights. And just to follow up on that really fast, and I'm talking a lot, but GSP also ended his fight on a 13-fight win streak. Okay, so there is some credibility to what he's saying. He ended his career past when he actually wanted to end his career. I mean, he came back and fought even after he planned to, and he ended on a 13-fight win streak, and his last fight being at 185, a higher weight class, for the championship and winning that. So I think his formula to give advice to someone like Conor is correct. And Conor's 3-3 in his last 6 fights, and he was on I had it written here, but it's I'm not. This is obviously not rattling off the top of my head. He was on a 15-fight win streak. So Conor had a 15-fight win streak when he was coming up and desperate, and kind of needed the money a little bit more, and he's went 3-3 since then. So I can kind of agree with what GSP's saying. So what do you think on that as far as you've built more champions that's went from nothing to being multimillionaires than anybody, so you can attest to that. And then also, what do you think about GSP possibly coming back and maybe taking that fight with Khabib if it is offered, even though it's been off the table?
Well, GSP is correct in so many ways. The thing of it is you have to stay hungry. That is definitely the number one thing. You have to stay hungry. You have to still want it. You still have to get up with that same desire that you want to keep something, you're striving for some great achievement. And you have to have that. If you don't have that, if you're looking for the better things in life, like going on the yachts and you're saying all those fancy cars and you're skipping training because you're going to do those things, then you are missing the eye of the tiger, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But the number one thing is you can never make yourself a champion. You can never keep yourself a champion. You have a team, and you have to have your coaches that can guide you, that you trust, that know what's best for you. And I think that that is the number one thing is have the same group that believed in you and you believe in them. And if you don't believe in your coaches, then find somebody you believe in, because that's extremely important. But if you have the same core people that were guiding you to the championship and they're still there and they're still willing, you should stay with that same formula that got you there, because once you get out of that comfort zone, it's hard to come back. So as a fighter, I know 100% when I lost my coach because he moved to Hawaii, I started scrambling who to find, this and that. So I got my friends to try to coach me, but they didn't really know what the heck they were doing. So that was a big, giant mess. You have to have coaches that know what they're doing, and you have to have someone that you trust and you believe in them. And if you don't, then you need to change it, and so to me, that was kind of an example of what I'm trying to say here. I brought friends. They weren't really qualified, and that was a mess. That was a mess. And then I got myself in a mess, and I go, well, how the hell can I tell these guys I need to get rid of them? So I had to be very delicate about that because I didn't want to ruin my friendship.
Yeah.
But you have to have the right coaches. You have to have the right mentality. You have to have that drive. If you don't have it, it's hard to buy it. You can't buy that. You got to have it.
And I think you make a great point. Another point that GSP had was he also mentioned that when you go to train, you can't be the king of the gym. Like, you have to still be the student. You have to have the coaches telling you what to do. You do what they say, and you train just like you used to. And I think you can attest to that and maybe give some insight on this, because you building the champions that you have, if there's one thing I've noticed from training at AKA is, like, no matter how famous we got and how big we got, we never felt like we were the top. I mean, there's obviously times when certain people at the gym feel like the top dog and they're their own businesses and they have a better future than the other fighters at the gym. But it's still hard training. You were the boss. You made everybody do what they had to do, and it was yes, sir, and they did it. Nobody ever came in like DC or Kane or Luke or any of the guys that made it to the top came in and told you what they were going to do, and then just told you, I don't feel like doing that, and then just did something else. You were always the king of the gym when it came to the coaching and the teaching. And I think that's what GSP says Conor needs to do, because he seems to be the king of his gym.
You cannot do that. You can't run your own. We can't. It's impossible. I'm sorry. It's just I've never seen it. Muhammad Ali had Angela Dundee. Mike Tyson had his people. All the greats have their people. I'm sorry. You need somebody that run you. You need somebody you trust in. You need somebody that's experienced. You need that. It's extremely important. Great coaches, are important for a great fighter. They really are. I've seen it too many times to not disagree with that. I agree 100% that you need a great coach, and if you don't have a great coach, you can at least know someone that knows you really well and knows exactly what you need to do and can let you, in other words, the coach has to guide you. You don't guide the coach.
And I want to put a little bit more value on in history that nobody knows, including maybe yourself, some of this at least, on the value of a GSP versus Khabib fight, if it was to ever happen. And we don't know anything anybody else does. Trust me. I know you don't, and I don't, and we don't know anything that's going on as far as that. But if it was to happen, let's give a little history here with AKA versus TriStar. Okay, so I fought Jonathan Goulet and beat Jonathan Goulet. I fought David Loiseau. I beat David Loiseau. I fought, oh my God, who's the other Canadian? I fought 3 Canadians, I'm pretty sure. Jonathan Goulet, Steve Vigneault, and David Loiseau. Steve Vigneault. Okay, so that's 3 Canadians that train with GSP that I beat. So I took out those guys. Koscheck had 2 fights with GSP. Fitch had 1 fight with GSP and couldn't beat GSP. GSP is the one guy that could never get beat by AKA. But you, my friend, you fought the founder of TriStar in kickboxing, according to David Loiseau post-podcast. We talked for like another 30 minutes after the podcast was over and talked about a lot of interesting stuff. And apparently you had a kickboxing match with the founder of TriStar and you won. So I'm not I don't want to say the name because I'm not sure.
Conrad Pla?
I'm not sure. I don't want to say the name of who it is, but whoever it was, a main head of TriStar, fought kickboxing back in the day and fought you and lost. So now we have wins over someone, the team related to GSP, from you to me to all these wins except GSP. He's the only person we have not defeated. And Khabib would be our last chance to conquer that team and conquer essentially Canada, since that's the best team in Canada. So that adds a little bit of value to the fight. And it's kind of interesting. When David told me that, I was like, wow, I had no idea. And I don't even think Hoff probably knows that he fought, because I don't know who he's referring to. It's somebody at the top of TriStar.
Conrad Pla.
Yeah, I guess
he was associated. I don't know what part he had to do.
Maybe he was like a co-founder or something.
TriStar, a co-founder,
maybe, or striking coach.
He's a hell of an actor too. I saw him in some Netflix things where he's a soccer coach, and I seen him in prison guard movies. That guy's badass, man. He knows how to act. Conrad Pla's the man, dude. He's badass.
Yeah. Well, good job, Hav. We don't talk about your victories that often, since you haven't fought in quite a while. But congratulations on that.
They're not worth talking about.
Oh, come on. I still got your picture at the top of the gym at AKA Thailand. But the funny thing is, it is the only picture hanging up on the walls at AKA Thailand that's black and white. And I'm not convinced that they had color when that photo was taken. So I don't know what to do. I don't know if Joanna just sent me the black and white version, or if that was just all that was available. Was it like one of those big flashing bulbs that went off when you took that photo with your long Lorenzo Lamas hair? I don't know. But either way, we have that photo.
I don't know.
It looks good. You just need a motorcycle beside you, which we can maybe superimpose later. So yeah, good job on that. And I know we talked a lot about Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. We've beat it up so many times, but things have changed a little bit. And a couple of those things that have changed is Dana White came forward and said that he's going to put $1 million, or would put $1 million on Ben Askren, saying that Jake Paul is not a boxer and cannot fight. He's not a fighter. I'd like to get your opinion on that. And then also, they're trying to make this one of the greatest sports combat events in history. They actually have Justin Bieber, Snoop Dogg, and a lot of other performances and added extras to make this show, to boost this show. And they also have, I really want to get your opinion on this, and I'm sorry, I can repeat some of this if you want. Frank Mir is making his boxing debut, 0-0 as a boxer, against Antonio Tarver, who's 52 years old, and obviously was every organization champion, every major organization champion. What is your opinion on, will Ben Askren beat Jake Paul? Does he have a chance, or are you still going with Jake Paul? What do you think about the competition between this style of show coming up against someone like the UFC with Justin Bieber power and Snoop Dogg and the way they're doing it? And then what are your thoughts on Frank Mir fighting Antonio Tarver when Frank Mir is my age at 41 and he's fighting a 52-year-old Antonio Tarver?
Well, first of all, Jake Paul, I still believe in the kid. I think he's the real deal. I think he's only getting better. Talking to all the people that I know that are training him, talking to his trainer, BJ Flores, who I've been watching, and I've seen some of the videos they sent me of the training, and I'm very impressed with him. I was very, very impressed. BJ is a hell of a coach, and he knows what he's doing. He's bringing the right sparring partners for him to spar with. He's not bringing like these really high decorated type boxers. He's bringing like MMA fighters, bare knuckle kind of fighters, really good fighters, and from what I'm hearing that, man, Jake's doing fantastic. And the little bit I seen of him on his Instagram, And I know from being a boxer myself, most of my life has been in the boxing gyms. You just don't have that many videos where you show yourself knocking people the hell out. And he has got quite a few of that, showing him knocking people the hell out. And I'm like, okay. And I'm watching the speed. I'm watching, yeah, sure. Is it super, super technical, super relaxed? No. But is there power? Yes. And is the technique getting better? If you're watching closely, yes, it's getting better. And he's being taught by a guy that fought for 3 world titles, if I'm not mistaken, BJ Flores, who is 30 something, and like he's got a great boxing record, so he's good there. So that's good. Justin Bieber, all these guys, Black Eyed Peas, like you say, man, that's fantastic. That's a show.
It's a
and
pretty
now think
good
about
show.
this. You got 20 plus million YouTubers that follow Jake Paul. You got all these people on Instagram, millions he's got there. His brother, Logan Paul's got 22 something million. If you watch these kids' videos, they're really impressive, man. Their videos are impressive. These guys are serious at their craft. They know how to create funny content. They know how to do everything, you know. So yeah, I'm still a big believer in Jake Paul, and I'm also a believer in Ben Askren though, because he's no easy task. And
Absolutely.
look, Ben Askren is not coming out there to box with him.
No.
He's going to come out there and use his wrestling, the best of his ability, rabbit punch, this, and that. There's a lot of things that he's going to be penalized for here and there because he's not going to be able to get away with things. The ref's going to rough him up. I mean, break him up when he does things that are illegal. And he's going to do it, whether he likes it or not, because that's the best chance he has to rough him up, get him tired,
Get him tired,
bring him in
wear him
deep,
down.
and drown him. That's what I think. Like past the 4th or 5th round, if Ben Askren is still in the fight, it's going to be very interesting to see, how Jake can keep that stamina up and keep Ben off of him. So that's what I'm waiting to see is what's going to happen after the 4th round. Can he continue to hit Ben and continue to outbox him? Because if he's getting tired, Ben's going to drown him.
Yeah.
He's going to drown him. So that was my only concern. As far as Frank Mir, against Antonio Tarver. Well, I mean, you got a 41-year-old champ, UFC champ. He's a great athlete. But let's face it, he hasn't, even though you're 52 years old, Tarver's 52, you said?
52, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, man. He's still got too much up here, man, in the boxing department. It's just like Antonio Tarver just started picking up MMA. He's been doing it for 6-7 years and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to fight someone like Frank Mir in an MMA match, and I don't see that. It's going to be possibly competitive because Frank is a bigger guy, he's a heavyweight guy. It'll be interesting, but I kind of hope I'm wrong because I would like Frank to win, but I just don't think he's got enough boxing knowledge to deal with someone the likes of Antonio.
Yeah, first fight especially, and I think if we learn something from the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight, these guys can hit. I mean, be it if it's a little slower than it used to be, being if it wasn't as frequent as it used to be, these guys can still punch. They still got power, and they still got that technique. And Antonio Tarver was a master. The guy was a champion in boxing against a guy versus Frank Mir, who is a ground guy specifically, initially, who learned striking, and he's 0-0 in boxing. And he wasn't always the greatest cardio machine, and now he's moving into a sport where Antonio Tarver has probably thrown 100 times more punches than Frank Mir in his life, and probably more than that. So even if he's old and even if he's, worn down and aged, his arms are going to be able to throw those punches fast and accurately, I think a lot more than someone like Frank Mir. And I think Frank Mir is going to get picked apart. But I'm with you on the fact that I think it's going to be very interesting and not bad. If they're going to put together another fight, it's entertainment. So names sell. And I think even though I'm picking Antonio Tarver by a landslide, I'm definitely going to watch the fight and be interested in it, because, you never know what can happen. And I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. The main event, I mean, you got a main event hey, look, come on, man. Dana's putting up $1 million. Come on, there's interest there, big time interest, and the casinos are there. What's the odds? Is Jake Paul, what is he, a 2-1, 3-1 favorite? So imagine Dana putting up $1 million at a casino, and they're taking the odds at 3-1 or 2-1. I mean, he's going to do that all day long. He's going to do it. If Dana says it, he'll do it. If they're giving those kind of odds, he'll do it.
The average odds right now is minus 250 for Paul and plus 200 for Askren. That's what the average odds are right now, according to the Google machine.
Okay, so he gets 2-1 basically.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's that. Hey, Dana would probably do 1-1. So if the casinos are taking his bet, he'll put the $1 million down.
He will. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's
cool.
not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet.
No.
If Ben can drown him, it's not a bad bet. It's not the bet I would do, but I can't sit here and go, oh, it's crazy. Like, look, listen. If it was Logan Paul, I would not put nothing on Logan Paul. I'd be like, no way. I go, Jake gonna smash him.
Yeah.
Because Logan is not Jake. Jake is a different animal, man.
I mean, Jake's crazy, and like you have to be a little crazy. And the thing is I want to add two things to this. And the first thing is, we've seen. Of all gyms, we've seen a lot of knockouts over the years at AKA. We've knocked each other out, quite a few times. But to rack up a lot of knockouts in a camp or in a couple camps or even in a career, like one of us, to rack up knockouts, it hasn't happened. It's been random around the gym. Like it hasn't been a case where like I've knocked out 6 people in the gym or 5. I may have knocked out one person, actually knocked him out, or 2 people or something, and rocked a few other people here and there, whatever. And I'm knocking people out in the UFC, more than in the gym. So like for him to get those knockouts, that does say something for sure.
If it doesn't, then I don't know who the hell
it does.
I don't know who the hell I am, because I'm telling you, I've never witnessed it. I never have.
Yeah, it does say something for sure. But I do think on the other side have to agree that Ben Askren is a master of winning. He's a very smart strategist when it comes to human kinetic chess. He's found a way to win against fights that he wasn't supposed to win his whole entire career. He's an Olympian. And I think, like you said,
don't count him out.
I think there is a lot of things that he can do using his wrestling position, dirty boxing, and clinchy kind of like exhaustive moves that will be legal. Now, I think he may, like you said, go to an extreme where he might do something that stalls the fight and gets it broken up, or maybe venture into something that might not be so legal and they break it up or whatever. But I think he's definitely going to wear down Jake Paul, and that's going to be the ultimate test for Jake Paul, because he does have the knockout power. There's no doubt. He does have the striking. The potential of his technique is there. But this is going to be the real test of his heart, I think. I think it's not going to be a fast knockout, most likely. And I think it's going to be a test of, can he get exhausted and get ran down and deal with frustration? Because to me, I think the biggest thing is going to be for Jake Paul, the biggest problem he's going to have is frustration trying to hit and trying to deal with someone who's going to be clingy on him like Ben Askren. When you're used to guys swinging wildly like the YouTube guys and the basketball guys, and they're leaving themselves essentially wide open, then you got a guy clinging on you like Jake Shields used to cling on to me for sparring, and it drive me up insane. That's going to be the battle that he's going to have to face and defeat and then come out ahead on, I think. And that's going to show where he's at. And I think after this fight, we're going to know where Jake Paul is and where he's going to go from here.
Correct.
So that's my opinion on that. Let's move on to, I got to get your opinion on this as a coach. Sterling, Aljamain Sterling. He obviously, he took the knee from Petr Yan, which was, Petr Yan was later confirmed. Khabib said it, I think, but other people confirmed that he asked his corner if it was okay. He threw the knee. Either way, it was one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most blatant, horrible fouls I've ever seen, because there's no way he could have not known. I thought it was genius at first, because I thought he was waiting for Aljamain to pick the knee up, and the second that he picked the knee up, he was going to nail them right in the head with the knee, which would have been just as effective and it would have been legal. But then he just kneed him anyway with his knee on the ground. I think it was horrible, and I think he should have lost all of his money for that, not got paid a penny. But should he have lost his title? That's the question. Should Aljamain have won a title from a disqualification? I agree they shouldn't have won the fight. No one should have won it, and it should have been no contest, and maybe some penalty for Petr. But do you think he should have lost a world championship title, and or maybe not even lose it? Do you think Aljamain should have won a world championship title off getting kneed in the face on a card where he was down on the scorecards?
Well, unfortunately, those are the rules, and
that's true.
Yeah, I those are the rules. So Aljamain, he couldn't continue. He wins the title. That ref makes the call. The ref made a call. He basically, says it was illegal, intentional. There you go. There's the rules for a reason. So when you have a title, you know you got to defend your title. That means you got to defend it correctly. That was a bad decision on Petter's, you know, his camp or him. It doesn't matter. It was a bad call, and you know, Dana's going to make a rematch of that, and then we'll see what happens on the rematch. You know, but everything is a fact. You know, it looks like Yan was running away with it. You know, but unfortunately, you know, that bad knee happened, and you don't see too many knees that are worse than that. That was a really bad knee.
And you don't see too many knees where you knee someone in the face, and it's like so obvious, because not just because it happened so quick and it was in that position, which that position's bad enough, but when it's in that position for an extensive amount of time before the knee happens. So you have plenty of time to assess the situation. It's not like it was like he got on his knees and threw the knee immediately. Like, it was really blatant. Like, it was I was mad. I was angry at Petr after that.
Well, did you see that the other knee that just happened that was nowhere near as bad, and how that one got same thing?
Yep.
Same thing.
That was different. That was a little bit different, I think.
Anders?
Yeah, that was a little bit different, but still, I see.
That was nowhere near what Sterling got. Not even 10% of what Sterling got.
Yeah.
That ended that too. So there you go.
So essentially what you're saying is that me bringing up the headline and getting your opinion, you're going with just the fact that's the rules and that's why, which makes my question to you and this whole thing stupid for me to even mention, because you're absolutely right. That's the rules. How can you argue against that? There's not much to discuss. It is the rules.
No.
But I do want to say something interesting in case you missed it. I did watch a clip of Big John McCarthy, and I will say, you know, him being an official for so long has its perks. He knows the rules more than anybody. And it was interesting because Aljamain said afterwards that, and I think a lot of people probably said afterwards, which is why I'm bringing this up, you know, it's absolutely ridiculous that a champion like Petr Yan would not know the rules and have to ask his corner if he should throw a knee or not. And then Big John's point was, you know, Aljamain also said after the fight that he didn't want the belt, he didn't care about the belt, and he didn't even know he was going to get the belt. He didn't even know when that happened that he was going to be granted the championship. So it wasn't like he was acting to get the belt, of which Big John McCarthy said, if you didn't know you were going to get the belt, then you, sir, also were in a championship fight and you didn't know the rules, which I thought is an interesting point. There's a lot of rules in the sport, and as shown, both of them kind of didn't know the full extent of the rules. One is a lot more obvious, I get.
He knows more of the rules than no fighter knows that shit.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult.
That's something a ref knows. Hey man, I'm very knowledgeable in so much of this, but I don't know as much as John does. So how the hell is my fighter going to know more than I know when he doesn't? And I don't know as much as John. So no, I disagree. Yeah. I disagree 100%. There's no way in hell that Sterling's supposed to know he was going to win the title if he continued. There's no way. He just, for whatever reason, whether it was real or not, who knows? The bottom line is the guy was hit with a hell of a knee, and those are the rules.
I mean, I think technically you should know as a fighter all the rules of the sport, and you should know where you're at. And I know there's rules of like going to scorecards. There's rules of being a no contest. You should technically know, but you're right. I mean, that's a lot harder rule to know than the Petr Yan one. Obviously, it was an illegal knee.
I knew the knee was blatant, 100%. His is down. You know, they explained that to me, but I did not know that the title was going to switch. I did not know that. I didn't know how it was going to be ruled. I just know there's rules in place like this, and this is what they do. The rules. Do I know most of them? But honestly, I probably wouldn't. My fighter wouldn't have known that rule, even if I knew the rule. I know my fighter wouldn't have known that. Most fighters don't know that rule.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just even go one step further. Okay, Swick, how many fights you've had in the UFC?
15.
Okay. In the 15 fights, when the ref comes in and explains the rules, did he one ref ever tell you if the foul like this occurs that you will be the champ? Did any of them ever tell you that? No. My question to you.
No,
has anyone? Okay.
You're on a roll making me look stupid here.
All the fights I've ever
I'm changing my headlines from now on.
I've never, ever had one referee tell us if that happens, the title will change. So how the hell are these fighters supposed to know, like John says? No, Aljamain's not supposed to know that. He just knows he couldn't continue.
Stupid point by John. That's what I meant to say. John, quit showing off. Quit showing off all your knowledge. I'm going to go with that.
He's knowledgeable. He's more knowledgeable than we are about the rules.
Quit showing off, John. Quit knowing more than we know and trying to make your point. You know, you can look at it from an arrogant kind of like, I looked at it from two different ways when John said it. I looked at it from an arrogant way because I saw it the way you saw it, which is why I got your opinion. I wanted to know what you thought as a coach because I assume you would know kind of from experience more than I would, because I personally didn't know at the time if he was going to get the belt or not. But when Big John said it and I first heard it, first it struck me as kind of like, it's kind of was an arrogant kind of a jab toward Aljamain. That was how I first took it. But then I said, it is a point too. You should definitely know when you get a championship fight. I never fought a championship fight. What would happen depending on, because I thought it was a cut and dry thing. Like when it goes to the fourth round, it goes to the scorecards or something. I didn't know it was so tricky as it was, where I didn't know it was even possible that was a rule that you would actually win the belt, So like I had to learn something as well. So yeah, I think it was more of just like him trying to prove that he's smart. And he should be. He's an official. I mean, that's his job.
Well, he's really smart too, though.
I mean, that's his job. He's an official. And not a huge headline, but real fast as far as an international MMA website headline. But one headline that affects both of us greatly is that AKA is now licensing gyms globally, worldwide. We've already got a gym going up in Goa, India, at Mandarin Beach. So just briefly, really fast, if anybody's interested in getting a gym licensed and they fit the requirements, they pay the licensing fee, they pay for the program, and we approve everything, you can have an AKA gym globally, whether you're building that gym or whether you already have a gym and want to change the name. Email us at info@akthailand.com. AKthailand.com is the international headquarters right now, taking over the licensing part of the AKA world brand and licensing. So anyway, I'm very excited about that, and I think you are as well. And what do you think about the licensed gym coming up in Mandarin Beach?
I think it's great. I mean, I hear it's a great place to vacation. It's one of the best destinations in India, I heard, for vacationing. So I think it's a perfect location for having an AK, Goa there. Mandarin, right? Goa is the other one you said you're working on?
It's in Goa. Okay. It's in Goa, but it's called Mandarin Beach. Mandarin Beach is the location there, and it's kind of like a real hot spot. So it's real cool. It's kind of similar to AKA Thailand in the fact that it's in a destination. It's in a tourist destination and a cool popular location. So it's going to be, that's why I'm helping them so much and advising them as much as I am, because there's a lot of similarities of how I built AKA Thailand and how they're kind of building this one, because they're dealing with a different clientele. A destination gym that's going to have people coming and going all the time versus a gym like, headquarters. And some of the gyms in the States, not really headquarters because guys come and go as well, but most gyms where you have the same people every single day for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It's a different concept. Yep. It's a different model. It's a different everything.
Yep.
And also, Manscaped has announced that if you use code QUICK, you get 20% off your order and free shipping on all products. And Manscaped is the best below-the-waist men's grooming product on the market. They got the best products. Have you got your Manscaped package yet, Hav?
Nope.
It's because I didn't send it. But I'm telling you what, it is on the way, because as soon as I get it, which I have ordered it, I am sending it to you, and you are going to be a fan of Manscaped.
I got nose trimmers.
They have everything. They have everything. Everything's a little geared more below the waist. But I think they have like a massager and stuff out now too. And like, it's fantastic. So I won't spam it up. It is an ad, obviously, guys. But you use code QUICK, manscaped.com. You get free shipping and 20% off.
What's up, everybody? I am here in Thailand. This is the first time I've ever been here. Been dying to come here for years. Mike Swick, he's one of the big reasons he's been trying to pull me down here. What he built down here, AKA Thailand, is incredible. There's people here from all over the world. You can train mixed martial arts here, jiu-jitsu. They have weightlifting, they have cardio, and obviously they have Muay Thai, boxing, everything. I'm telling you guys, I know everybody wants to go to Thailand because Thailand's so cool, but you can't come to Thailand without coming to AKA Thailand. Come on.
And then I also want to mention another headline that's coming out is the UFC gloves. This has been a big topic among many people, and I want to share. I'm going to get your expertise on this. And the point of it is the new gloves. Trevor Whitman created a glove called Onyx, and everyone seems to think not only his glove is the perfect example, but his design is the perfect example because it curves the hands down. Daniel Cormier has been on record multiple times saying no matter what you do, you're always going to have problems when it comes to eye pokes. My argument, before I get your expertise, because I know your expertise carries so much more weight, my argument on this is we are gladiators who are fighting hand-to-hand combat. I think the least amount of restrictions on our body is how it should be. Now, they put the gloves on our body. Like we have the gloves on our hands to protect our hands from cuts and getting our hands broken where we can't fight for months and months and months at a time so that we can continue competing. But aside from that, we have no restrictions on our body. We have nothing to restrict our movement, including the gloves, which allow us to open our hands fully, which help for grappling. My issue is if these gloves do make your hands arch, it will protect eye gouges. I don't think if you look at the injuries of the UFC, overall injuries, I don't think, even though the one with Muhammad recently and the one before that look serious, I don't think there's been very serious eye gouges. I don't think I've ever heard of a fighter not being able to continue his career because of an eye gouge. I don't think I've heard of a fighter not being able to fight for a year because of an eye gouge. I took 910 days off because I blew my knee out. Ankle locks, things like this. I think if you look at the overall list of injuries, eye gouges are not the most detrimental and the most common. So I think they're just kind of overrated in general, even though the ones we see are very bad. And I also think that if you restrict the movement of your hand to where you can't open, you can't grab. So like if you're going for a rear naked choke, I'm going to have the mic here a little bit, but if you're going for a rear naked choke and your hand is here and you can't open it enough to grab your bicep or to grab a wrist because your hand is here and you can't open it to grab a wrist or to pick an ankle or something like that, that can have serious effects on your fight if you can't grapple properly. So to me, I think I'm against the restriction of movement, but I am definitely for remodeling the UFC glove because the Onyx and Trevor Whitman's design is fantastic. It looks beautiful. It's aesthetic. It's obviously good quality. I've read up on it. I do think they need to upgrade the gloves aesthetically and in that regard, but I don't think, in my opinion, they should restrict the movement. I think that's going to cause more problems than eye gouges themselves. What do you think?
Well, being that I've had many fighters fight and they get eye gouged, the ref doesn't see it. The fighter's performance is jeopardized. They go and lose the fight because they really don't say nothing. The ref doesn't acknowledge it, and they go on losing the fight. So anytime you minimize eye gouging, I'm all for it. But I will agree with you that if it restricts the movement of the hand, where now they're not as able to do what they were do with the other gloves, then yeah, it's kind of like, I'm against eye poking. I'm against
for
it.
Sure. I am too.
My fighters have been guilty of it. We've received it many a times. DC's been guilty of doing many eye pokes. And then he received the eye poke of eye pokes, when he got half his finger in his eye from Stipe, unintentional.
Yep.
And, he couldn't see for 3 or 4 days, So for me, there's got to be a solution. And I'm all for minimizing eye pokes as much as possible. I'm not for anybody being a casualty because, of this or the reason or that reason. So for me, if you can minimize it, I'm all for it.
I think I'm going with Dana on his take on this is just punishing people more for keeping their hands open and not being more careful. In other words, giving them a warning and a point deduction immediately instead of letting it go on. And I have to say, I've never been eye gouged to an extensive degree. So I'm not an expert on dealing with it. If I've ever been eye gouged and not been able to see for a few days, maybe I'd feel different. But I will say that DC has been. He has been eye gouged and he hasn't been able to see for 3 days, like you said. That's not a detrimental injury 3 days or 4 days or 5 days or a week. There's injuries where I've had, a month where I was still in pain and hurt and whatever. And DC himself, who's been eye gouged in a serious way, has also said publicly that he doesn't think it's going to fix the problem, that it's still going to be an issue. So I just kind of, I guess, I agree with you. I think they're bad. They're horrible. I don't think the restriction of movement is the idea to fix it. I think that it's going to be punishing people and just hoping. I agree with DC. It's something that's going to happen, just like illegal blows, just like people doing ankle locks and popping the knee. I mean, this is a tough sport, and shit like this is going to happen.
Yeah, but like my feeling on it is, hey man, if 10 out of 10 get eye gouged, and now these new gloves make it 5 out of 5 out of 10, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because that's 5 guys that didn't get eye poked, and then I don't see how you'd have to see on the movement, because I think if the movement with your hands is not going to be proficient enough, no one's going to want to do it. No fighter's going to fight that way anyway. So I think the development of better gloves is a must, and I think that's the solution. And hey, eye pokes are going to happen, but hey, if you can minimize them, even 10%, even 1%, I'm all for it.
Do you think if we put cotton swabs on the end of our fingertips when we fight, do you think that would help?
No, I don't.
I was hoping you'd laugh, because I thought that was super cheesy, and I didn't want to feel it was more cheesy. So I'm glad you laughed at least about that. Everyone else isn't, I'm sure. You guys aren't. But the thing is, but like with DC, I mean, he got eye gouged, and okay. So first, I want to say, I don't know if it restricts your hands to a point you can't grapple. I'm not going to try to slander Trevor Whitman. I think what he's doing is fantastic, trying to fix the sport, trying to help people, trying to stop eye gouges, create new equipment. I think it's fantastic. And if it's something where when your hands are completely limp and you have no muscle strain there at all, it keeps them down, and you can still extend them with minimal effort, or at least not too much resistance. Okay, perfect. I agree with you. I think we should do them. But if it extends them too much, then we can use DC as an example. Would DC rather get an eye poke every once in a while, or would he rather be able to lose a lot of his wrestling ability when he's trying to go for a single or trying to go for certain takedowns and grab ankles and do stuff from the ground? And we've seen Khabib pin people's arms behind their back by grabbing their wrist and stuff. If they're unable to do that, would it be worth it? And that's, I guess, the big question. So I guess time will tell, and I think it's going to take a testing process, and there's going to have to be a smaller show, I think, that's going to have to do them, have a few fights with these gloves and see what happens to kind of before the UFC is going to jump on board with it. Because if the UFC makes a mistake, it's going to be detrimental.
Well, I heard Bellator has their gloves that are a little bit better designed, and there's less eye pokes there. So
okay,
at the very least, same design as Bellator, bro. I would take that. I'll take that over anything.
And I'll say Ryzen has different gloves too. I don't like the fact that they're so much bigger, because they are more padded, but they seem to be designed a lot different. They're very different gloves. They're huge. I mean, they're you've seen Ryzen gloves. They're way bigger. I don't know how they rate on eye pokes, but I can't remember too many eye pokes in Ryzen that I can think of. So maybe it's something to look at. It's some of these other shows and different forms of gloves.
Hey, look, man, it's something that needs to be worked on for sure. Because hey, man, nobody wants to lose to an eye poke, and like I said, in DC's case, the ref didn't see it, so DC had to continue to fight with one eye because the ref didn't catch it.
Yeah,
and now you have instant replay where you can look it over. Now you can do that, but they wasn't able to have it then. So now it's kind of anytime you can get improvement to better the fighters for their safety, and also to see if fouls have happened. And then here's an individual that lost the fight that he shouldn't have lost because the ref missed something. Well, now they can rectify those things, and I'm all for it. I'm all for things to make the sport safer. I'm also for to get the right person to get the actual win, and there's so many issues out there that still need to be addressed. The judging is off the damn charts with these judges. And in boxing, we've seen it for many years, and MMA, we're seeing now where you got these judges where, are going, what the hell were they looking at? There's like, what the hell were they looking at? There's no way in hell that fight ended like that. You know, the one thing I can tell you, and I think you will agree with me, us fighters that have fought, we usually hit it almost 99% of the time. We're always on the money, the same money.
Yep.
We may be a little biased
Yep.
when it's our teammate, but we usually hit it right in the nail, who won, who didn't win. You know, and if it's our fighter, of course, we're always biased, a little biased. But if it's not our fighter, we hit it on the nail, who won, who didn't win. So there's got to be something to judging. You know, if there's any way legally where you can make judges be ex-fighters, you know, that would be great, but unfortunately you can't, because this is government institutions, and you know, it's, if you're a government employee, you can't just hire fighters, because that's discrimination. So it doesn't work that way.
And people have said that before. Somebody came out and said that every judge, someone had on the podcast, I think, recently said that every judge should have at least a professional fight, because you're right, fighters think differently. But here's the problem with that, and I'm going to say real fast, a good example of this is our guy Manel Cap from AKA Thailand, who came to AKA and trained for his last couple fights. And this is the saddest part. You know, you lose a lot of money when you don't win. Manel won the fight, in everyone's opinion. It's not like it was controversial where, you know, it was like 80-20 or 75-25 or 60-40. It was like every single MMA website had Manel Cap winning the fight, but the judges didn't. I mean, or enough of them to give the fight to his opponent, and he lost his win bonus for that. But when they said that, you know, it sounds good when you say every judge should fight, because it solves a lot of problems, because now you have ex-fighters, a lot of them that don't have work or that are struggling after fighting. You know, it's probably a decent paying job. They can become judges. They can become, you know, part of the sport still, watch fights. They can have a good career, maybe make some money, and they can judge fights from a perspective that I think is a lot more educational. But here's the problem that I think a lot of people don't think about, is the biasness. Most fighters are still attached to fighters that are in the cage fighting. And I've tried to get Herb Dean on the podcast many times, and Herb Dean wants to be on the podcast, and he wants to come on here, and we chat all the time, and he DMs me, and we talk on Instagram and all that. But he's scared to come on the podcast because he is an official, and I have fighters, and he doesn't want there to be a relationship between me and him, and we talk about stuff on the podcast, and the next thing you know, he's in there with Manel Cap, and it's one of my fighters, and me and him all were buddy on the podcast, and he's very smart in thinking about that, because I never thought about that. And I think that's the problem with having fighters as judges, is there's always going to be a relationship between those judges and some fighters in those groups, or their teams, or their affiliations, and that could create some kind of biasness, and that could be another problem in itself. So it's kind of a hard problem to fix, but you're right, some of these judges have no business. They're not even watching these fights, it seems like.
No, it's horrible. But, you know, it's a government issue, state by state, you know, and these are government employees, you know, they're government employees. So you work for the State Athletic Commission 1 year, the next year they're working somebody else. You know, it's the way it goes.
One last not headline, but one last thing I want to talk to you about, and I'm sorry that went on for an hour. For everybody that's watching, I'm going to try to keep these down to I'm going to try to keep these to 30 to 45 minutes so that they're not too long and they go on for too long with the future guests. But Javier's just so fun to talk to. That's why he's my friend.
Yeah. I can't even get a word in. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. This is my chance, Jav. This is my chance to talk and give my opinion. All I do is listen to people talk all the time and answer my questions, and it's time for me to say something, damn it. No, you're going to have plenty of time on this one. So, Stipe versus Ngannou. Okay, so we both know, we've seen the first fight. We saw he had a blueprint to beat Ngannou. I don't think how Stipe fought Ngannou and how Ngannou lost that fight, I don't think Ngannou can improve enough to win aside from knocking out Stipe. I think it's always going to be a fight where we have the better fighter fighting a guy who could possibly beat the better fighter, who's not the better fighter. And I think that's always going to be the case with Ngannou and the really top echelon of fighters, because Ngannou's never going to outwork and out-technique and out-cardio and perform guys like Stipe, but he can knock him out, and he can knock out anyone. So what is your take on this next fight coming up? And now that Stipe already found the blueprint and beat him before, Do you think it's going to be any different? What's going to make this fight interesting, and how can it go any other way than the first time?
The only way it can go any different than the first time is if Stipe can't, take him down like he's going to go do right away. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time for a reason, and he's a professional through and through. He's going to do his due diligence. His coaches are good. They're going to do everything they need to do to get him to work on his takedowns and keep him on track. They did it the first time. He stood with him. He almost got taken out. He reverted right back to his wrestling roots. He's not going to make the mistake this time to do that. So he's going to go to his wrestling game, his clinch, take him down type thing. Because if he doesn't, I'm sorry, he's getting his lights put out. So he's going to have to take Ngannou down. And hopefully Ngannou has learned enough since the first time to be able to get up, and survive, the ground game. Because if he hasn't, it's going to be the same as like last time.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I think when you watch that first fight, it was if you ever gain respect for someone like Stipe, or want to gain respect for Stipe, watch that fight. I mean, the way he fought Ngannou was just a perfect game plan. I mean, from the holding him against the cage and just leaving his weight on him and grinding him out because he saw that he was losing cardio, to the movement, to the takedowns. Like, it was just, he's super smart. His IQ is incredible. His power still, even though he's smaller, is incredible. His movement, his technique is incredible. And again, unless Ngannou can hit him, and he took a lot of punches from Ngannou in that fight, and unless Ngannou can hit him harder and land better, I don't see it going any different than it did the first time. In fact, maybe even Stipe could finish him on the ground or maybe a TKO or something when he gets tired.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to get Ngannou tired. Otherwise, hey, it's a fight. Anything can happen, But obviously, if Stipe sticks to his wrestling game and Ngannou can't stop it, it's Stipe's fight. But if Ngannou can stop the takedown attempts and keep it standing more, then I favor Ngannou. So it's one of those things. I don't know who's going to win. I just know that scenario. Outside of a good power shot from each one of these guys, that's the way I see it going.
And let me ask you this, just on because we don't know who's going to win this fight, but we have a good assumption. Do you think Jon Jones is going to play any kind of factor in the heavyweight division? Whoever wins this fight, do you think Jon Jones has what it takes to beat either one of these guys? We obviously know Ngannou is going to land on Jon Jones. Can Jon Jones take those punches like Stipe did? And then can he outwork someone like Stipe at that level as a heavyweight? And Stipe does punch hard as well, and everything I just said. Does he have? Do you think he's going to have any impact at all in the heavyweight division, or is it going to be like Adesanya?
Nope. I believe he's going to have a big impact. I believe he's going to do it right. He's been doing it right. You watch him. You watch what he's doing. He's big now. He's no light heavyweight anymore. He's a legit heavyweight. I believe Jon Jones is going to come out there, and I'm not going to be shocked at all if he wins at his first try at heavyweight. If he wins the title, I'm sorry. Yep. This guy is like GSP in the way he calculates everything. He looks at everything. He plans it right. He doesn't do anything without knowing he can compete and be the best at that division. And I believe that Jon Jones he's the heir apparent to the heavyweight division. And I believe he's doing everything in his power to make it happen. And I'm not going to be shocked if it happens at all. Not at all.
I agree with you in his prime. And the thing that plays into my head the most is Khabib, when he said that a fighter can only have one prime. He can never come back and have another prime. He can still come back and fight and do whatever, but you only have one prime. I don't know if Jon is still in his prime. I think he's post-prime, and I keep playing these fights in my head where he's had struggles to win at 205. Talking about he had a tough fight with many guys. The list can go on, but definitely Santos and Reyes and Gustafsson and these guys where he's had tough fights at 205, and now he's going into heavyweight. That has to, if it was like he just blew through everyone and never had, like a Khabib type who just never had trouble, or a GSP type who was on like a crazy win streak, 12-fight win streak before he went into middleweight, I think he would have what you said, an easy way to win the title. The fact that he struggled at 205 against some of the 205 fighters that even after they fought Jon Jones didn't do good and have been losing as of late, so they're not even powerhouse fighters either. That makes me kind of question if he's going to have any kind of success at heavyweight.
It's all on motivation, to me.
Yeah.
I look at like how motivated was he to train for this person? How motivated was he to train for that person? I know when he fought DC, he was the most motivated Jon Jones we could get. And we got that Jon Jones. The motivation, was it the same Jon Jones with all the other guys? I don't know. Only Jon Jones could tell you that. But I know he was motivated to fight DC. He had a point to prove. And I believe in the heavyweight division, it's the same. He's got huge motivation. He's got a point to prove. And I believe don't sell him short, man.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't do anything without knowing he could win. If he didn't think he can win, he wouldn't even step in there. Don't you remember the one time when he had that one bout that got canceled? I think it was Belfort or something like that, and he was preparing for Belfort, and then Chael come in, and he's going to fight him. He declined the fight. He declined the fight on short notice because he didn't prepare for that type of wrestler.
Oh wow!
So that's the type of person that Jones is. He's not going to sacrifice nothing unless he knows he can absolutely, positively win. And that's what this guy's going to do. He doesn't like to lose. He does everything he needs to do to win. Regardless of what he has to do, he'll do it. And that's the kind of person you're dealing with right there, in my opinion. So that's why I never count him out, and that's why I'm not counting him out. And I don't believe he's that old. I don't know. Is he 33, 34, maybe 35? I don't know how old he is,
mid-30s.
but he's not that old.
No, he's not. He's definitely not old, for sure. I just know he's getting kind of older, and he had to sit out a little bit of his prime because of issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, Miocic's 37, He's not older than that. And Miocic, look at him. He's a specimen, He's incredible.
But he hasn't had too many struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been caught by DC and laid out, which I think is amazing for DC to have a great win like that over such a great heavyweight. But he hasn't really had the struggles that Jon Jones has had. That's the difference. But I'm going to agree with you and say that Jon Jones, we used to say AK all the time when we'd fight fighters and we were coming up that were undefeated. It's a tough fight because the fighter doesn't know how to lose. And for people that don't understand, when you lose a fight and understand that it's okay, and this is the worst thing that happens to a fighter. When you lose, it's devastating, but then in time, you realize it's okay. You pick yourself back up and you move on. And some fighters still don't want to lose, and it's death to them. But to some fighters, it's okay. So when you get out there and it gets tough and things get, kind of in a bad situation, you kind of give up a little bit because you're like, I've lost before. So I agree with you in the fact that Jon Jones hasn't lost and he doesn't know how to lose. He always finds a way to win, and you are 100%. He prepares, and he's very smart, and he's very calculated. I'm just more worried, I guess, about just the time off, the struggles that he's had, and just where his body is and stuff like that more than himself. I'm not trying to knock Jon Jones and his IQ and his fighting abilities and techniques for sure. He's definitely outstanding in that regard.
His fight IQ is off the charts, bro.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
His preparation, taking care of his body, off the charts. This guy does it right. No, I'm sorry, but anybody that discounts him, you're fooling yourself, man. This guy is never lost legit for a reason.
Yeah.
He's, sure, he's lost a lot of rounds. Some have been very close, and some may be questionable and this and that. But the guy keeps winning.
Yeah.
Guy keeps winning. So, say whatever you want. That guy knows how to win. And he didn't just jump into heavyweight. He gradually brought his weight up. So that's why I don't discount him at all. No way.
I have to say, I agree. I mean, essentially, you can't really honestly doubt someone that's never lost until they lose, no matter how close it's been. I mean, he has won every fight. Essentially, obviously, the Hamill fight is not it wasn't a legitimate loss. But anything else you have? Anything? Just a little bonus. Other than the USADA thing, before we go, since you don't have a headline or anything, is there any updates on Khabib and the team while you're out there that you can share? Anything significant before we go?
No, I got Khabib's cousin Manap. He's fighting on the Stipe Ngannou fight on March 27th. I got his cousin, his other cousin fighting in Bellator. Usman. So Khabib and I will be cornering in Connecticut, the Bellator event. for his cousin. And then after that, I got about 3 weeks at home before I take off for Mowgli Benitez fight back here in Las Vegas, I believe. And then after that, I'm going to Uzbekistan, my favorite place to go, with Cain Velasquez. I believe we're doing some meet and greet, and maybe
Cool.
we're doing a master class in Uzbekistan. So that's going to be cool. And maybe I'll get DC to come on board too. Maybe he can come, but we'll see. I don't know if
Cool.
the timing works perfect. Maybe I can get both my champions to go to Uzbekistan with me.
Awesome. All right, well, cool. All right, well, thanks, Javier, for
right.
being the first
All
guest
right,
on the
buddy.
MMA Headlines news segment. I appreciate it. Great talking to you. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, thanks for making it 35 minutes.
Hey, well, 35, an hour and 5. It's that's all relative, Jav. This is how I trick you. I meant from this
Okay.
point on 35. But thanks
Okay,
for doing the first long one.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Jav. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Real quick, with Mike Swick.